Welcome. We are so glad that you've decided to join us today for our flip session. Today, we are going to be talking about student defenses of learning and how to increase student agency through performance assessment. Our team is from Shelby County East Middle School in Shelbyville, Kentucky. My name is Robin Markham. I'm the instructional coach here at East Middle. This is my third year here, and it has been really fun to be a part of these defenses from the beginning.
My name is Crystal Harris. I'm an 8th grade teacher and advisor. I've been in Shelby East for about 3 years, and I've been working with defenses since we decided to do them.
My name is Kelly Hudson. I'm also an 8th grade teacher and advisor. This is my 6th year at East, but this is just our 2nd year doing defenses here.
And I'm Dr. Jennifer Cox, and I have been with Shelby County Public Schools since 2009 as a teacher, instructional coach, and now principal.
So today, our learning goals for our session. By the end, we want you to understand student defenses of learning as performance assessment. We want you to understand student agency as a means to increase self-advocacy. And we also want you to be able to gain strategies for conducting defenses within your own school. Our panel discussion will be divided into 3 parts today. The first part, why student defenses? Then the next part will be learning about what student defenses look like. And then our third session will be how to plan for student defenses. So why student defenses? How did our vision from our district inform our school's path to defenses here?
Our district vision for moving to performance assessment versus traditional assessments really began more than 10 years ago with our original partnership with PEBC out of Denver, Colorado, with our Thinking Strategies Institute training. We just realized that scores were not enough for us to realize what students were truly capable of and how deep their thinking went. So that led to, over the course of several years, multiple partnerships that included professional developments and reading and research, and even some visits to schools around the country that were a little further along in the journey to performance assessments than we were. That included Waukesha, Wisconsin, Envision Learning Partners, UK Next Gen, and many others. That led us in Shelby County through 2 strategic leadership plan developments where our community helped us develop our profile of a graduate. And our profile of a graduate that's on our website now is what really informs our defenses of learning.
So we all know that students are a lot more than test scores. So defenses really give students the ability to show that they are more than test scores. And so that's where this idea of student agency comes from. And about 4 years ago, I piloted our personalized learning program here at East. And our vision was really focused on student agency. And this is a quote that always stood out to me as, our why. So children with strong belief in their own agency work harder, focus their attention better, are more interested in their studies, and are less likely to give up when they encounter difficulties than children with a weaker sense of agency. So that first year of our pilot program was all about building just this ownership in who they are as a student and who they are as a person in the real world. And that really feeds into our defenses of learning.
Our district is working to become a competency-based educational district. So for our first set of competencies, we wanted to consult our community and get their ideas about what they wanted to do with our students as they graduate from high school. So our profile of a graduate is what our community says they want to see from their employees, which are our students. And our defenses are allowing our students to showcase their competencies of a profile of a graduate.
So there are some administration considerations to develop a system to make defenses successful. The first is the philosophy of learning. You want to make sure that your philosophy in your staff is the right one to to make defenses as successful as they can be. You're going to have two camps of thought. You're going to have staff members that are going to have to believe their way into doing, or you're going to have staff members that are going to have to do their way into believing that this is the right work for kids. Alignment is the next issue you have to consider. How does what you're doing at the school level align to your district profile of a graduate, the school's mission and vision, and then of course any summative and formative assessment that's going on at the classroom level? There needs to be accountability for all levels. There needs to be an accountability system for students to the adults, for the adults to the school as a whole, and for the school to the district mission. We started with pilots and guinea pigs. You heard Ms. Hudson talk about our pilot launch EMS personalized learning platform. And that really began with a coalition of the willing teachers that wanted to take a risk and jump into this head first. We visited other people, and as we developed EMS launch, there was something of a autonomy and a barrier removal that I had to be aware of as principal. I had to make sure that I was very clear with them about what I wanted to see coming out of this personalized learning program. I needed for them to be courageous and vulnerable and make sure that they were taking risks, but I also had to make sure that I was protecting those risks. And there was a vulnerability. When you're trying something new, there are going to be failures. We're going to need to fail forward, and we're going to have to support one another as we do that. And also frequent check-ins. There were weekly check-ins that we had to do as a team to calibrate and make sure that the students were still getting what they needed from their learning, to make sure the adults were getting the important things that they needed from the administration, and we needed to make sure that we were still keeping ourselves aligned with what the district wanted us to do. Feedback and celebration was a super important part of making sure that we had what was feeding us to keep going. We had to make sure that feedback was on the calendar so that it didn't fall to the back burner. We had to make sure that our students were assessment capable so that they were able to assess their own learning and pick the right kinds of artifacts for their defenses. And we needed to make sure along the way that we were creating mentor texts for them so that they could build on what their peers had done in previous years, and they could build upon it and make it even better.
So that brings us to our second part of our panel discussion today. What do student defenses look like? How about at East Middle? What do they look like here?
So defenses are really two parts. It's not just one, but it's this idea of collecting and curating artifacts, and then also presenting those artifacts in their actual defensive learning. So before I get into that, I want you to see kind of our big picture of what our district, what we're doing across the district. And so if you look at this continuum, you can see that defenses are at every level. In elementary school, they're doing them in 5th grade, middle school does them in 8th grade, and high school does them in 12th grade. And they are working on those throughout the other years as well. So this really is something that they will continue to work on throughout their entire schooling experience until they graduate in 12th grade. And so the first part of the actual defense is collecting and curating artifacts. So what we want students to understand is that it's not just about getting all A's or, getting good grades, but it's about being able to talk about their learning and their experiences and their growths and even their struggles, the areas that they struggle in, and what they were able to do to fix those struggles or to work through those struggles. And so you can see on the screen, here are some just examples of screenshots from some of the curated artifacts. It is up to students this year whether they want to collect those in slideshows or if they want to create a website. We've had quite a few students decide to do a website so that as they go throughout high school, they're able to continue adding to it and revising it along the way.
The next part is the presentation piece of it. we really wanted our students to showcase some of their profile of a graduate, one of those being an effective communicator. And so when we had our discussions about being an effective communicator, we had to really, work with our students on how their presentations come across, but not only how they come across, but what do they want to put in their presentations so that they are not just reading off of their slides. So that's been a big discussion and a learning curve that we've had this year, where we let our students put everything into their slides, and then we help them develop their slides. So when they're presenting, they're not just reading off of a slide. They're telling us what they've learned, how they've grown, without actually that piece of reading off of a slide.
So the third part of our panel discussion is how to plan for student defenses. So how do you plan for student defenses? How do you even know where to start?
So when we started defenses last year, we didn't know where to start. So our instructional coach, Ms. Markham, and our dean of students really got the ball rolling for us. So they created those big structures and systems that needed to be in place, kind of like a skeleton. And they also created a lot of templates for students, the guidelines, different resources that they could use. And from there, they kind of passed that down onto me and Ms. Harris, who are the team leaders, so that we could add the smaller pieces to it. What lessons do we need to learn? What do our students actually need in the classroom? So we started, and then this year we continued, but we started with the end in mind. So we began at the end. When will defenses actually take place? So we created a living calendar that we add to, and we worked backwards. What will they look like, and when are they going to take place? And then from there, we filled in what lessons do students need? What skills do they need? What do we need to actually be teaching them to help support them with their defense? Then we got to the point where we needed to create some tools for them. So they needed more resources. They needed some examples and documents that they could use. And then we actually got to planning, when will the curating take place? So we set up benchmarks along the way so that they didn't wait until the last week before their defense to actually curate all of their artifacts. But they're checking in with their advisor weekly and should be meeting certain benchmarks. And then Ms. Harris and I also needed to decide what does support look like from their advisors, because that was up to us to support our other advisors who might be brand new to this, or it might have been their second year, but we also needed to support them in supporting their students.
And then so when we come to our next steps, and looking to the future, because we know how much we value the student agency and the student defenses in our school, we first planned on doing this in person and having our students do it in person last year. However, COVID happened for everyone, and we didn't want our students to lose all the hard work that they had done. And our students really wanted to showcase what they had learned throughout the school year. So we decided to do it on Zooms last year, and it worked out really, really well. And then this year, with all of COVID still happening, and we did so much NTI and learning online, we wanted our students to still have that buffer just in case, who knows what's going to happen. And, somebody goes, oh, back to NTI. Our students won't be shocked. And so we're going to do them on Zoom again this year. However, looking to our future, we are hoping to do these in person so that our students really get that practice of presenting in front of people in person, because we know how valuable that skill is too.
So that brings us to the end of our panel presentation. We hope that it's been helpful for you. And in reflection, we invite you to consider, how might Defenses of Learning increase student agency within your school? If you have any questions or would like to know more about defenses at East Middle or the process that we've gone through for planning them, we invite you to join us for a live Q&A session. That'll take place during the virtual ALP conference on May 6th and 7th. We would love to have you join us. Thank you.